What you're about to hear are stories from members of the 200th Military Police Command. You will look upon the faces of very young people who speak with a wisdom that will astound you. You're going to hear voices full of the powerful passion of those who have overcome adversity. You're going to be moved by the deeply personal stories which these soldiers and civilians share. And through it all, you're going to hear a common theme. We, as soldiers and U.S. Army Reserve civilians, have something which others don't. We are members of a team, and we have battle buddies. When asked what motivated them to step forward and participate in this project, the common theme was, because of what I've been through, I am stronger. I'm stronger and I can share and I can help. More importantly than that, I want to help and I see it as my duty to help. So I ask you to listen to these stories. And I ask you to remember that we have teammates, we have battle buddies, that we are teammates and we are battle buddies. We got this.
I am a civilian law enforcement officer in the state of Georgia, and I am a 20-year veteran still serving in the United States Army Reserve. I'm a father of 7 children, 5 of which being girls. I felt that I had to protect them. Wasn't nobody going to protect them the way that I could. And something happened to one of my daughters in my own home by a family member that turned everything upside down.
My depression and anxiety actually started when I lost my son at the age of 3 months to sudden infant death syndrome. I was very depressed, very in a dark place, very, very alone.
One of my best friends died by suicide. He was 18, I was 19 at the time. I went about 2 or 3 weeks just kind of not talking to anybody, angry, filled with all these different emotions, sadness, distancing myself, and basically blaming myself for what had happened.
My father was the one that taught me how to play guitar. He worked at Aberdeen Proving Grounds for 32 years. He was a rocket scientist. He was actually a rocket scientist. And one of his favorite things to say is, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, but if you need one, I'll be upstairs. He unfortunately contracted terminal cancer when I was in ROTC. He survived for about 4 years until the day after I graduated and commissioned as a lieutenant. I was able to give my bars to him when he was on his deathbed. And that was just a traumatizing experience.
There's nothing that I had experienced in combat or a police officer that would prepare me for something of that magnitude happening to me, to her, while I'm there. I had to keep up the persona for her and the rest of the family that I was strong and that I would take care of this. But on the inside, it was killing me.
I was actually, in 2014, admitted to the hospital not once, but twice for suicidal ideations. The psychologist asked several questions, of course, and one of the main questions that stood out to me was the one of, have you ever thought about killing yourself? Of course, the E7 in me wanted to say no. The GS11 at the time wanted to say no because I don't want to lose my security clearance, because that's not only my livelihood for the military, but for civilian as well. So I never got help. Probably about 3 or 4 months later, was a time where I was admitted to the hospital again, and this time it wasn't voluntary, it was involuntary.
The first time I was hospitalized, I didn't really believe in getting help. I kind of thought it kind of showed that I wasn't as strong as I should be, especially being in the military. So I kind of weaseled my way through, said I was fine, got done with what I needed to do, and was let go. And then another incident occurred where a NCO from my previous unit had actually died from suicide. And that was kind of like the unveiling of everything that occurred, and I ended up getting hospitalized for the second time, and I was scared that I was going to lose my career, lose everything that I've worked hard for, what I've built up to. Scared that other people were going to think of me more of a liability than an actual soldier.
There was a period in my military career where I realized that I didn't trust myself around firearms. If both of my hands are on this guitar, I physically can't do anything wrong. If both of my hands are occupied by an instrument, I physically cannot pick up a knife, I can't pick up a bottle, I can't do anything because my hands are occupied by this instrument, by these 6 strings and wood. One night before BA, I had a lot of thoughts. It was specifically stressful, and I came forward the next day, and in the morning I told my commander, I have something I need to tell you about, and he could tell by the look in my eyes that I was tired, that I hadn't slept in 2 days. And the first thing that came out of my first sergeant's mouth was, "Are you thinking about killing yourself?" And I really reluctantly sat there in that chair. I decided, I said, yes, absolutely. And it was from that moment, they dropped everything. They dropped everything in order to take me to the ER in that moment. And I'm so thankful for it. You know, he really created this environment for me to feel safe and wanting to go back to drill every weekend, just to let him know that I was doing better. And that was one of the best experiences.
I didn't want to do anything in my house because I didn't want my family to have to clean up my mess. And I walked to the middle of the street and I looked both ways. There were no cars coming. And I said, this is it. I'm going to do it. My neighbor, who is also a veteran, was outside cutting his grass. He called me over. I walked over to his yard and he said, "Brother, what are you doing?" I said, just looking. He said, "That's bullshit. I see it because I've done it. I was there. So I could see it a mile away." He said, "I can pretty much smell it on you. Let's talk." And that day, he knew it as well as I did. He saved my life.
My reinvestigation for my security clearance was happening all in the same year. So if anybody ever tells you that you'll lose your job, you'll lose your promotion, you'll lose your clearance based off you reporting that you need help, please, please, please don't believe that stigma, because I am living proof that seeking help is the best option and really the only option for me, and that you can continue your career and have a very successful career, not only in the military, but also as a civilian as well.
Today, not only am I a better person, but I'm a better soldier. Yeah, thoughts of suicide did arise multiple times, but what stopped me from doing that was just seeing the pain and the grief that my buddy has caused all of his loved ones and his friends around him.
And how would they feel if you gave up and you ended it all? And why do they have to keep fighting when the strongest person in their eyes gave up and didn't continue to fight?
So we wear this uniform to serve. And basically when you're in a time of need and a time of sadness or grief, you can't perform to the extent that you want to. That's why I'm telling my story, to kind of help you realize that, you know, it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to feel down, it's okay to hurt, but it's not okay to quit.
Don't give up. Fight. You're never powerless. You're never worthless.
And I think that's what people suffer most from when it comes to depression and suicide, is they feel alone. They don't feel like they're valuable. They don't feel like an asset to the team. People that really are open to sharing these issues that they've had really brings a unit together. It really brings a family together. It brings any team together when you are real.
You need each other. We need each other. Without each other, we're nothing. So why would you suffer in silence? Tell someone. Reach out. It doesn't make you less of a man or less of a person, period, for you to seek for help. That's why we all exist, to complement each other, to make each other better.
I think that it's allowed me to become a better soldier because I'm more empathetic with my soldiers, and that while we have to be tough as senior leaders, we can also be empathetic as well. So calling them maybe once a week, checking on them, seeing how their family is doing, what they've been up to outside of the military spectrum has helped me to grow as a leader and to show my soldiers that I care for them and that I want to be there for them outside of the military as well.
When I was 6 years old, my mother died from suicide.
My brother, who was 2 years younger than myself, died by suicide.
On October the 17th, 2017, my father died by suicide.
It's really hard for me myself to accept that my brother died by suicide because he was such a happy-go-lucky, cheery person.
I was in elementary school, and I remember one of my aunts coming to pick me up from school. So later on that day, I found out that I was never going to see my mother again.
I always expected to bury my father, just not quite so soon.
He left behind sisters. He left behind myself, who ended up having 3 young men. And every day when I look at one of them, he reminds me of my brother so much.
I've gone through a lot of different emotions, from sadness to anger. I was angry at her for a long time. The simplest things that regular people call their mother for, I don't have that option.
I still miss him. I would call him up on my way to work in the morning, and there are still times when I think to myself, man, I gotta call the old man. But I can't call him anymore.
You never get used to that person not being in your life anymore.
I can tell you that a family is never the same afterwards.
You always wonder what things would be like if they were still here with you.
My father was really good at showing up. He came to my basic training graduation, my graduation from AIT, when I pinned major, all the major events in my life, my father was there.
Why wouldn't my mother have wanted to see me graduate from high school or get married, join the military, get promoted to E7, all those things?
My father was living with my grandmother, his mother, at the time of his death. She found him, and she will probably never recover from that experience of burying her oldest child, with whom she was very close, and finding him.
I feel bad that my boys and my brother's sons have that cloud over them of what happened to him.
It's sort of a cloud that hangs over the family in the wake of a death by suicide.
There's that stigma that some feel that if it happened to a family member, it could happen to me.
I think the stigma around suicide is so strong that folks don't reach out for help in the way that they probably need to, my own family included.
I wish that he had spoken up. I wish that he had said something.
I feel like if she would have shared the things that she was going through, the way that she felt, and her feelings with someone, then maybe she'd still be here today.
It was amazing the people my father did not realize he had in his life. And I wish that he had looked around a little bit more and maybe seen all the people he would have impacted and could continue to impact positively were he still alive.
Grief by the loss of someone who died by suicide and grief from the loss of someone who died of other illnesses is a totally different feeling.
Suicide grief is different because I think there is a different kind of shame surrounding it. I think there's also a different kind of guilt surrounding it. Could I have done more?
There's a lot of questions, unanswered questions that you'll never get the answer to.
I still don't know exactly why she did it or what she was going through at the time. All these years later, the loss of my mom still affects me on a daily basis.
So even after all this time, it never goes away. You just learn how to live with it. You learn how to try to make a difference the next time when somebody does speak up or when somebody does show signs.
There is hope, right? If you are someone who has lost a loved one, as I have, as my soldiers have, as their families have, please know that we need you, I need you, you need you to reach out to someone around you.
My actual favorite resource we have is each other. Your family, the people on your job, the people that are closest to you, they're the ones that can really help if you open up and you talk to them.
The thing that helped me the most through my healing process was talking. There's nothing wrong with seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist.
He's always going to be alive in my heart. He's always going to be real in my life.
The way that I would like my mother to be remembered, she was a model. She was in Jet magazine as Beauty of the Week. She was a soldier. She was a mother, a daughter, a sister. She was like me. She was like you. She was like the person sitting next to you. She could have been anybody. I think that that's important to remember, is that you never know who that person is sitting next to you, and you never know what their struggle is.
If you are seriously contemplating taking your own life, please know that there is hope. Find whatever that is, whatever that reason to live is, and go after it with your whole heart.
In 2006, I was deployed to Iraq. I had a soldier with me that was struggling through some hard times. Did what I thought was right. I went ahead and I turned him over to his chain of command and suggested that he potentially go see combat stress. 2 days later, he took his life, death by suicide.
About 3 years ago, we lost a soldier. Suicide is something that affects everyone. And it scares me because we've had 4 suicidal ideations in 2018 alone. How do I know if we're not going to lose another one? How do I know that everyone's okay?
After losing a soldier to suicide, a lot of units are just devastated. They're upset, they're saddened, they're going through the grieving process.
When I joined the Army 22 years ago, no one talked about this. It was, you know, it was a taboo subject, and it was never discussed. one of the biggest things I've seen as a commander that I really want to communicate to other commanders is have those conversations. Let's drop the rank. Let's have a person-to-person conversation with your soldiers so that they're comfortable enough to come forward to you and say, I'm struggling with something, or there's an issue I have.
For leadership, it's really challenging because in a traditional reserve unit, you're only seeing these soldiers maybe 2 days out of the month. And the other 28 days out of the month, there's limited contact. And a lot of times it takes more than just an email or a phone call, text message, or a social media post. You have to reach out to that soldier. And unless you know your soldiers or your peers on an interpersonal level, some of these warning signs won't be right there on the surface for you.
Towards the end of the deployment, we were getting ready to go home. Things had slowed down. I too had found myself starting to struggle with some things. I had my service weapon and I was ready to end my life. The one thing that stopped me was the fact that he had taken his life and left a child. And I can only imagine what his family was going through. And if I went ahead and ended my life, what my family would go through.
To get people help, I think we need to start to include the families, whether it's during family day briefs or we have some other dedicated time to brief the families on resources available if they see the warning signs, if they have suspicions, if they notice something's off about their soldier.
Especially in this social media, virtual heavy environment that we all live in, we tend to lose the ability to have interpersonal relationships with our family and friends, coworkers.
It's not just a weekend thing. It's not just once a month thing. It's an everyday thing. I have contact with soldiers at least 3 to 4 times a week, and it probably drives them crazy. But it's because I care, to know that someone's there and that someone cares is important.
The more you dig into that relationship with your soldier, the more they're going to share with you what's going on in their life. You're not a counselor. You're not a chaplain in most cases. You're a fellow soldier. You're a human being. And true interaction to get to know someone requires those deep questions. Ask the deep questions.
The majority of the people out there that die by suicide don't want to. I didn't want to. The will for me to live was greater than the will for me to die. The only thing I wanted was the pain to stop. I wanted the hurt to stop.
You know, we chose a career field that is quite stressful, being in the Army. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but we've got a great support system within the Army today. There's a whole plethora of options that you can go to as an Army Reserve soldier, through your chain of command, through the chaplain corps, through your fellow peer group, because the Army takes us serious. The Army Reserve needs to keep every soldier that we have in its ranks. Every soldier in the Army Reserve today is valuable.
We have a dangerous profession. It is a profession of arms, but we should not be a threat to ourselves. You will never regret staying up all night and talking with someone about what's going on in their life, because that conversation may have prevented them from taking their own life. There are soldiers out there that are struggling in silence, that are suffering quietly and not reaching out. What I want you to know is that you do not have to be alone in this. We truly do care about you. We want to know what's going on. We want to help you. So you're not alone. Reach out to us. Let us help you.
The other thing that keeps me going is knowing that I'm here to help. I can help somebody. I can potentially save somebody else's life. And if I'm not here to do it, then who will?
Every year since 2010, the command has seen a year-over-year increase in the number of people coming forward to ask for help. That's a hugely encouraging sign because it signals that throughout the command, people feel comfortable speaking up, and they trust that when they do speak up, people will respond appropriately and take good care of them. Bear in mind that there are people still in our midst now who are suffering silently. That's why it's important at the first opportunity, at the first sign that someone's in distress, we reach out to people and offer our support. That if somebody speaks up or seems about to come forward and ask for assistance, that we set aside what we're doing and listen to them closely, take them seriously, and respond immediately to their concerns. We are one team. We are united, we are connected, we are bonded by a shared purpose, by shared experiences. When one of us is in trouble, that threatens all of us. We need to rally around every single member of the formation, every single coworker, civilian or military, and our family members to make sure that everybody stays safe, supported, connected to one another so that nobody slips through the cracks. Strength and courage are military ideals. It takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of courage to ask for help and to stick with it when the course gets a little tough. But as you heard your fellow soldiers and civilian coworkers say, asking for help, accepting help, and sticking with it pays huge dividends that in the end made them stronger people, stronger soldiers. And that's something that we should all respect, admire, and support.